one of the first responders on the scene is a Canadian immigrant to Israel. Dr. Joyce Morel is a volunteer with an emergency medical service, and she joins me live now on the phone from Jerusalem. Thank you for your time on what has been a harrowing day, I can just imagine. If you wouldn't mind taking us back, Dr. Morel, to what happened when you first got the call about this incident today.
Well, I was in my house just getting ready to get on with my day, and I got a call on my radio that there's a shooting incident and seriously injured people a 2-minute drive from my house. I ran into the car. I always have my equipment there in the car, put on the lights and sirens, and flew there. I got to the synagogue fairly early on, parked right in front, and there was a gentleman there who was pretty seriously injured, but conscious and talking, bleeding from his head. As soon as I started dealing with him, the police came running out of the synagogue and said, "There's still shooting going on. Get away, get away." So we took that man and ran further down the street to be out of the line of fire. Started taking care of him down there. They brought some other injured people from the synagogue to that area, and we were treating them.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the condition of some of these people you were seeing and perhaps what they were telling you about what had happened?
I didn't get to hear too much about what happened. The first man that I saw was wounded in his head. I'm not exactly sure how. When we tore off his shirt and looked at his back, he had about a 6-7 inch stab wound through his back, right to his ribs. Could even see a little bit of lung there. But thank God he was still talking and conscious and able to breathe. A few other just cuts on his chest. One of the police officers who later died was helping to take care of him. He was shot in his head. Another police officer was shot in his leg and was bleeding profusely from his leg. Tourniquet was put on him. Another one of our own paramedics was injured at the scene. He had a broken leg. Basically, people were stabilized and taken very, very quickly to the hospital for definitive care.
I gather you were there for about an hour and a half, is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
After that, when you had time to take in what had just transpired, were you able to find out a little more about what had happened? Perhaps you can walk us through what kind of a scene would have been going on at the synagogue at the time of this attack.
Well, at the time of this attack, they were in the middle of morning prayers. And then all of a sudden, these guys ran in and were shooting and stabbing. I haven't spoken to anybody there who was actually at the scene inside the synagogue. It was really frightening. The terrorist car was parked, a few cars away from where I had parked there. And they were just able to walk into the synagogue without being stopped. It's a house of worship. One doesn't think the terrorists are going to be coming in and murdering people in the middle of their prayers.
Were you able to see any of the family, or were you shooed away from the scene before it had reached that point? I wonder, I can only imagine people must have been rushing.
I was with some of the family members of the people who died before the names were released by the police. And so they realized that their family members had been praying in the synagogue and weren't taken out, weren't brought to the hospitals, and were still in there. So that was very emotionally draining, seeing these people frightened, knowing really what had happened, but not knowing.
Dr. Morel, I know you were part of a volunteer organization, various emergency responders, fairly new. I gather you just left Canada to live in Israel a couple of years ago, and I gather that you were at another attack just a couple of weeks ago. I wonder, in the aftermath of something like this, what goes through your mind?
I am very, very grateful to be living here in Israel with the people of Israel, with my people. And I am very grateful to belong to this incredible organization called Yehuda Tzala. And we're there to help when people need us. It's a real privilege to be here. I'm a Canadian. I'm proud to be a Canadian. But this is now my country. These are now my brothers and sisters. And I feel it's a real privilege and an honor to be here helping everybody. I just hope that we're not needed anymore.
Dr. Joyce Morel, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us with your account of what happened today in Jerusalem. Thank you.
You're welcome.